there's just a lot of fraud. There's a lot of bad things happening in this industry, and we got to do something about it. Real world actionable items that can be done that will make a meaningful impact for the folks in our industry that are doing things the right way.
Hello, and welcome to Carrier Code, your inside track to the strategies, stories, and leaders driving the trucking industry forward. Today's episode is sponsored by Driver's Legal Plan, CDL Ticket Defense for Professional Drivers, and produced by Bulldog, Trucking's podcast pros. I'm Christy Choice here with my co-host, Rocco Merari. How's it going today, Rocco?
Christy, first off, and everybody, Happy New Year.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is going well. It's going
Happy
well.
New Year. Indeed. 2025 came and went, and here we are in a brand new year.
It did, didn't it? I thought, my goodness, how is it 2026 already? It just came up out of nowhere.
Already.
Next thing you know, it was New Year's Eve and midnight and 12:01, and look where we're at. But you know what?
Look where
That's great.
we are.
It's great because we have so many exciting things that we're going to be talking about this year. Some great guests that we're going to be bringing on for everybody here. And more importantly, some great events. You know, we're going to be attending these events, and these are events that you all need to look at and attend as well. It's going to be eye-opening. We're going to have great banter, great conversation, and it's just excited to be here. Christy, what do you think?
I am also very excited. Excited that 2025 ended on such a high note, but also really looking forward to all that 2026 is going to bring us. But I agree. I can't wait for some of the future episodes of Carrier Code Podcast where we talk through some of the must-attend events. We're going to continue to keep our eyes on the topics that are facing the trucking industry. And we have a lot of really good stuff coming up, Rocco. I just can't wait. It's going to be great.
It really is, you know, and I just want to let everybody know we can't do this without you. So thank you to all the listeners out there that supported us throughout this year. We're looking forward to bringing you a better show, an exciting show, and everything that you want to listen to.
That's right, Rocco, because you know what? It is about what our guests want to hear. So if you have ideas for topics or guests that you want to see on the Carrier Code Podcast, go ahead and email us, knowthecode@carriercodepodcast.com. And that leads us right into this next wonderful guest. We have joining us today, Blake Grolmus, the Senior VP of Government Relations for Iowa Motor Truck Association.
Hey, Blake, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well, Rocco. Good to see you again, guys. How are you?
Pretty good. We're great. We're so excited to have you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we are well. Blake, I heard there's some new exciting news you have to share. So how about we make it podcast official?
Yeah.
Let us know what's going on in your life.
There's a lot going on, highlighted by a recent job change. So this is, I've been here for a month and just a couple days now. Started a new role as a Senior Vice President of Government Relations for the Iowa Motor Truck Association.
Woo! Well, congratulations, Blake. That's amazing. So what does your new role consist of, that Senior Vice President of Government Affairs over at IMTA? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's a new-ish role to the IMTA. We used to have someone in this position years ago. It's been a while since we've had a full-time staff member in it. So kind of getting to build it from the ground up, but the core of it, the core of our mission here at IMTA is advocacy. So I will be advocating, aka lobbying, up at the state capitol here in Iowa, as well as out at the national level, and working with our regulatory partners as well.
Oh, that's exciting. I mean, that's something that a lot of people don't realize that happens on a state level. So, one of the things I was hoping we could talk about today is really how should we gain involvement in the state level. We see all the national organizations, ATA, TCA, making the headlines, but grassroots, that's where we need to really start building. Blake, what are your thoughts? How can we really get carriers and people engaged and really see the difference that's going to make?
Yeah, Rocco, that's a really great question. And I think you're 100% right. There's a lot of headlines that come from the national organizations just with the broad reach that those groups have. But when you think about those associations, whether it's ATA, TCA, National Tank Truck Carriers, those are all part of the overall federation, and really the backbone of those federations is the 50 state trucking associations. We're the folks that are in the individual states close to those carrier members. And at the IMTA here, we're really proud of those connections that we have with our carrier members. We've got some really great trucking companies in Iowa of all sizes, 5 trucks all the way up to 5,000 trucks or more. Really diverse membership, and just something that it's really important to be a part of if you're in that state.
So, Blake, just to expand on that a little bit. So if, let's say, I'm a new carrier, how would one go about getting involved and not having the fear of being the lone man out, sort of say? I mean, do you have any recommendations on what, let's say Rocco's Trucking, just got my DOT number and everything in Iowa, I want to get involved. What do I do?
Yeah, so it really starts with the reach out, whether it's through our website or calling our office here. There is always someone here Monday through Friday, a live person that's actually going to pick up the phone and answer the questions for our members when they call in. That's something that we're very passionate about, right? When you call in, you're not going to get an answering service, and it's going to take 2 days for someone to get back to you. There's going to be a live person on the other end of that phone. We're going to get you the resources and the help that you need right away.
That is, and that's a breath of fresh air, because typically, when we're calling different places, we're getting put in a phone tree and getting sent to who knows where. And I've noticed that across the state organizations, it's still the white glove, the face-to-face old school type mentality. And I think in our industry, that's really something that is near and dear to probably every carrier's heart, is, have that face-to-face, have that, that personal connection that a lot of times we don't see anymore. And that's something that, listeners, we have to remember. These state associations, they're there for you. So, really embrace that and build off of that. Christy, what are your thoughts on something like that?
Well, I mean, I love it. I think that what you're talking about is something that's very, very timely, right? As we're thinking about ways to get involved and how to best spend our time, we have a very limited amount of time. And so people need to know kind of what's in it for me. As self-serving as we can be, sometimes we love to be able to think about giving back. And so, Blake, I know that you're looking forward to a whole lot in your new role, and I want to kind of talk about that as well. But what are some of the benefits of being members of IMTA?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, Rocco, you hit the nail on the head just a minute ago when you talked about the people, right? At the end of the day, trucking, transportation, everything that we do is a people business. Nothing moves without the people, whether that's the driver behind the wheel, the technician in the shop, the dispatcher, all the way up to the CEO of the trucking company. It's the people that make the difference. And that's something that at IMTA and all of your state trucking associations, that's something that is not lost on us. Like I said, it's that personal touch, having someone, a live person on the phone to answer and get you the help that you need, even if it's, we may not have the answer, but we have those relationships. We're right here. Our office is right across the street from the Iowa Department of Public Safety. We have a great connection with the Iowa Department of Transportation, the legislators, whoever it might be. We're going to pick up the phone and call those folks and get right back to you so we can get those answers and be that resource that our members need.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I love that, because you really have to work your resources these days. But Blake, a little birdie told me that you're also very active in your local government. So tell us about some of your other passion projects in addition to your new role at IMTA.
Yeah, so this role for me really is kind of a great opportunity to combine two things that I love, which is politics. I am a political junkie, have been involved in some way, shape, or form with politics really for as long as I've been alive, right? My family growing up, the two things they say you're never supposed to talk about at family functions or anything like that are politics and religion. And that's all my family ever talked about was politics and religion. So I've always been involved in it. But as part of that, yeah, Christy, you mentioned it. I'm actually just wrapping up a 4-year term on my local city council in the little town that I live in just outside of Des Moines here. Just something that has always been a very interesting area for me, and something I have a lot of desire for, giving back and serving from the front line.
Wow, that is amazing. Amazing. So tell us really quickly some of your most notable accomplishments from your time in politics in your town.
Yeah, so we're a small town, but we're growing. We're kind of the next big suburb to be, and in some ways that's a good thing. In some ways that's something that we kind of want to be very guarded about. That's really why I ran for city council 4 years ago was to make sure that we had a voice at the table that was listening to the people in the community and, making sure we address the needs that we have as an existing small town before we start to think about any kind of growth. Infrastructure, streets, water, sewer, the things that make a town run, make life livable for everybody, making sure that those are taken care of, making sure that we invest in our professional staff at the city, right? We're in a small town that's just outside a metro area, so it's really easy to have a great staff member in a small town like that could go make probably double what they're making in the small town doing the same job in a suburb that's 5 miles down the road. So really investing the time and the resources in our people, those are things I've been really proud of with the time I've spent in local government.
So, Blake, one of the neat things about the Carrier Code podcast is our hands aren't tied. We can talk about whatever we want. And you mentioned politics, and you're big into politics. Tell the listeners and tell us, what do you feel the current administration and the changes that are being made within the trucking industry? Because it affects everybody, all the way from every carrier, even down to the township. Like I said, everything comes on a truck. So how do you feel the changes that are being made is affecting our industry going forward?
Yeah, I think both personally and as an association, we are really encouraged by the changes that are happening, especially in the Department of Transportation under Secretary Duffy. The new FMCSA administrator, Administrator Derek Bars, who was recently confirmed. We're really encouraged by the work that they're doing to root out. I know on a recent episode, you had Dan Horvath from the ATA, and one of the things that was talked about a lot are the bad actors that have come into this industry. Really, really encouraged by the work that Secretary Duffy, Administrator Bars, and others are doing to close some of those loopholes and get some of those bad folks out of this industry. There's still a lot of work to do, but even just earlier this week, the announcement about the removal of 3,000 CDL training providers that aren't meeting the standards that have been established, putting another 4,500 of those on a watch list to make sure that they are meeting those standards. Those are the kind of things that make a real impact in our industry, because that's going to ensure that every driver has the right training, is getting the right tools to be successful, be safe out on the road. And it's also creating a more level playing field for the carriers and folks in our industry that are doing things the right way.
Blake, that's wonderful news to hear, because you never know where people, where their minds are at when changes occur. Change is tough. So it's always nice to hear, a perspective of somebody whose feet are on the ground, who had the experience that you had leading up to your new position, that can really articulate the reason behind, how you feel that this is going to be, a positive moving forward. Do you mind telling the listeners, really how you operated in your previous life before you made the move, and what your role was and how that tied into the industry? And I think that'll really help build, some momentum and formulate why people should really start looking at these state associations, because it's people like you who've come from the industry who are out there to make it better.
Yeah, that's a great question, Rocco. My whole career, I started on the kind of more the distribution, warehousing, supply chain side of the industry, and then went to work for a top 50 carrier for the last 8.5 years, a couple different roles there. But really the bulk of my time there was in the world of safety, regulatory compliance. And so really getting that foundation, understanding how that impacts our drivers, how that impacts the folks that we share our roads with, understanding the importance of advocacy, of education. That all, for me, really started when I joined the IMTA's leadership program back in 2018. That opened the door to me getting involved as a volunteer, as a board member on the Iowa Motor Truck Association's board of directors, and it's really springboarded into involvement with the ATA and other organizations in this industry. So certainly something that, I feel like I bring a level of level-headedness and real-world experience to a role like this that can help really tell the story for our industry.
And that is so great to hear that. So listeners, remember, when you're talking to your state associations, people like Blake have been out there. They've been in the trenches, so they're out there truly to help you succeed. So keep that in mind when you're reaching out and you're joining these associations. People are there for you. I heard through the grapevine of a new report that came out Monday, And I think it's going to be integral into the industry. And I know probably a majority of our listeners have not heard of this. It's put on by a small organization. Do you mind, if you know about this, maybe filling us in? I'm sure that you would be the guy to talk to about this.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the Trucking Association Executives Council, or TAEC, it's again part of the ATA Federation. It's a group of the presidents and CEOs of state trucking associations. They've been looking at this industry. We've been hearing from our members. There's just a lot of fraud. There's a lot of bad things happening in this industry, and we got to do something about it. So, as you said earlier this week, Monday, they released this report. It's out. You can find it at truckingresurgence.com. It's a report that this small task force put together that really identifies what are the regulatory, the enforcement challenges that have allowed bad actors and fraudulent folks to get into this industry, and not to point fingers at anyone, not to rehash the things that we all know are challenges in our industry, but really solution driven, to say, here are 7 things that we can go take quick action on. It's not going to take years and years through the legislative process. These are things that folks, like we talked about earlier, Secretary Duffy, Administrator Bars, they can take real world fast action on some of these things through whether it's interim final rules, the federal rulemaking process, or quite honestly, just enforcing rules that are already in the books, like they've already done with English language proficiency, that will help root out some of these things and have 2 really big benefits. One being safety. It's going to get some of these folks off the road that shouldn't be out there. But 2, it's also going to level the playing field for the folks that are doing things the right way, and just create a better, fair, competitive balance out there.
Wow. So this is really helpful for everyone to know. So TAEC has published a study, a report, and I love that they're taking a different approach. It's not about pointing fingers and saying, how the regulations have come to be, or, whatever. It's really about what action can be taken. So Blake, share with us a couple of those regulations, if you can, that are top of mind for you.
Yeah, so one of the big ones, we talked about it with Secretary Duffy's action earlier this week around the training providers. One of the recommendations in this is protecting the integrity of the commercial driver's license. That starts with training. It starts with things like non-domicile CDLs, and making sure that only folks who should really have those, folks that are authorized to be in the United States, have a valid work visa, those are the only ones getting that. So we don't have these situations where no name given is the name on the license. I just can't even imagine how that ever comes to be. But the actions in a report like this, and the recommendations, and it's already been given directly to Secretary Duffy and Administrator Bars, they're really excited about it. There are some real things here, some low-hanging fruit that can be gone after, while we build plans out for some of the other things that exist as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Not pointing fingers, but just taking some action to try to make things safer for everyone. I love to hear it. And I hadn't known about the study. So, I'm going to go do some research to find it. That sounds really, really interesting. So thank you so much for bringing that up for us.
Yeah, it's a worthwhile read. It's, there are, like I said, there's 7 pillars out there: protecting CDL integrity, integrating things like the MCMIS system and state CDL licensing. There's just a lot of, again, real world actionable items that can be done that will make a meaningful impact for the folks in our industry that are doing things the right way.
Blake, I do got one quick question for you real quick, though, because I think the listeners are going to be intrigued. Iowa or Iowa State?
Switzerland. I actually am a graduate of the University of Northern Iowa, which is really kind of right in between those. And I'm a Michigan fan of all things. I grew up really in the shadow of Kinnick Stadium, and somehow escaped Hawkeye fandom. But if you force me to, if you have to make me pick one, I'm going to side actually with Iowa State.
Okay.
Right. I'm an Illinois guy, but my daughter went to Iowa State, so if I have to, I side with Iowa State. So I'm on the same page as you.
Iowa State. I love it. I love it. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
So Blake, you mentioned that you were in the IMTA leadership program, but One of the ways that we have become well acquainted with you was through ATA's LEAD program. So like, let's kind of talk about that. I mean, professional development is a really, really, really big deal. What were some of your main takeaways from not just LEAD ATA, but other programs that you have participated in as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think any program that you're going to be a part of as a leader, as a professional development exercise, really comes down to what you're going to put into it. So getting involved, getting to know the people that are in the program with you, right? As we had time to spend over the last year getting to know each other, our classmates in the LEAD ATA program, that to me is the biggest value, that network that you build, but also getting to understand more about the associations and organizations that you're a part of, and how you can play a role in advancing the mission. Those are my favorite parts of those kind of programs.
Yeah, and it builds confidence, doesn't it? Being a part of LEAD ATA.
It certainly does. Confidence is a key to anything you do in
Yeah.
that realm.
Well, we all know that confidence is absolutely foundational here. And it has helped us to launch Carrier Code Podcast. And we're sitting here full of confidence and just ready to take on all of these wonderful new challenges. Hey, Blake, you mentioned that your role is a newer role in government affairs, but it's some exciting times for the state of Iowa. So tell us what's going on in Iowa and how your role is going to intersect with a lot of the political changes happening there.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time in the state of Iowa to be stepping into a role in government relations because there are a lot of changes coming. So our incumbent governor, Kim Reynolds, has announced that she's not running for re-election in 2026. So we have a pretty wide open governor's race. I believe there are 5 declared candidates on the Republican side, 2 on the Democrat side. One of those Republican candidates is also one of our U.S. representatives. So we have one for sure, unless something major changes, one open seat there. We also have a U.S. Senate seat. Senator Joni Ernst has announced that she's also not running for re-election this year when her seat is up. So another of our congresswomen, Ashley Hinson, is running for that seat. So a lot of changes in our federal and statewide delegation, and because it is every other year full election for the state house, we'll have 100 House seats and 25 state Senate seats all up for election. So really an interesting time to come into this role and meet the players and get involved in the advocacy for those roles and races coming up.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, we frequently have talked about here on Carrier Code Podcast that during the LEAD ATA program, one of our favorite meetings was when we did our call on Washington. And so because you're already so politically aware, tell us about your perspective of the call on Washington and how that shapes what you look forward to in the future.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think Call on Washington was probably my single favorite activity that we did as part of the LEAD ATA program. Part of that's probably because I am a political junkie, but part of it is also just the experience, right? There's so much history and there's so much legacy, both in the buildings and the folks within those buildings that make up the legislature. It was something that I took a lot of interest in, and in a kind of a roundabout way, I feel like that led me to this role. I've told the story a few times about how, as I was leaving DC on a plane coming out of Reagan Airport, I looked out the window, saw the Capitol, saw the White House, saw the monuments, and went, gosh, this trip was a lot of fun. I got to figure out how I can do more of that. And honestly, I think it was 2 days later, Brenda Neville, the president and CEO of the IMTA, reached out to me and said, hey, do you have time to meet for lunch sometime next week? Just got a couple of things I want to talk to you about. And one of the things that we started talking about was this new role in the IMTA, specializing in government relations, and how I might be a fit for that. And it all just kind of came full circle there.
Oh my goodness. That is an amazing full circle moment. And I love Brenda and I love IMTA, and that the right role like came and found you, right? Because of your the places where you've positioned yourself to be a resource and to learn and contribute to the industry. Well, congratulations again on your new role. And thank you so much, Blake, for being here and sharing all of these recent events with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun, like I said, and it's an exciting time, and thankful for the opportunity to come join you guys.
Yeah, can't wait to tap your shoulder again for next time, Blake. Okay, everyone. Well, we'll be back with more Carrier Code Podcast when we get back from break.
Carrier Code is sponsored by Driver's Legal Plan, CDL ticket defense for professional drivers. Hey, it's Rocco from Carrier Code. Every professional driver knows how important it is to protect your CDL. A single ticket can put your livelihood at risk, and that's where Driver's Legal Plan comes in. With just a phone call, you can get specialized CDL ticket defense for just $2.98 a week. Don't let a ticket jeopardize your trucking career. Contact Driver's Legal Plan today and let them defend you like they have more than 400,000 other cases. When you need CDL ticket defense, there is only one, Driver's Legal Plan. Call 1-800-580-8789 or visit driverslegalplan.com for your free consultation. Again, that's 1-800-580-8789 or driverslegalplan.com.
Well, welcome back to Carrier Code Podcast. OMG, Rocco, did we hit the jackpot with Blake or what?
We did. I mean, I learned a ton. I know our guest learned a ton, or our listeners from our guest. That's how enthralled I was. The one thing I really learned, and I hope our listeners picked up on, is state associations are your grassroots into the industry. So that's where everything starts from. It goes from there up to the federal level, and it really grows. And, join those associations, become part of it. If you have an association where you don't feel that you're getting what you think you should out of it, maybe join. You can make a difference. This is something where they want your input. People are going to listen. They want that association to grow and become better. And I believe that's what Blake was sharing with us. And, I think also that's why Blake made the transition from, a VP of safety to his new role to make that difference into the industry. It's something that we can all make a change on. And it's not on the national level where, we can become part of it, but are you really going to see the outcome? When we look at that state level, you will see the outcome of all the effort you put into it. That was one of my big takeaways from what Blake was talking about today.
Yes. And I know this is like so a New Year's resolution type of thing, but it might sound that way, but it's not. Hear me out. There's a whole lot of chatter from people who love to be opinionated and kind of speak derogatorily about, this in the industry or that or whatever. And guess what? Everyone is entitled to an opinion, but I want to be a person who contributes to things getting better. So Rocco, exactly what you said is so spot on. A lot of times, we hear, people make comments about different associations or, why they stopped going or why they don't like things. And I'm like, hey, be the change you want to see.
Chrissy, let's challenge our listeners here. Being 2026, if you feel that you want to make a change in your state organization, let's get involved. Either you yourself, if you have that passion, or if you see somebody in your organization has that passion, nominate them to get involved. Make that difference. January 2026 is the time to do this. You have all year to make that difference. Let's see what you all can do.
Blake's test is a firsthand testimony of how his own personal passions have landed him a role that fully aligns with kind of where he is in his life and the things that really bring him joy. And he's still impacting the trucking industry. So very, very proud of our lead ATA classmate for all the wonderful things he's doing there and for filling us in on some things that we had no clue about. So really, really exciting conversation with Blake. Carrier Code is sponsored by Driver's Legal Plan, CDL ticket defense for professional drivers, and produced by Bulldog, Trucking's podcast pros. New episodes drop every week, so be sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss an episode. You can listen on your favorite podcast platform, watch on YouTube, or visit us anytime at carriercodepodcast.com. You'll also find us on all the social channels at Carrier Code Podcasts. Thanks again for joining us, and until next week, I'm Christy.
And I'm Rocco.
And this is Carrier Code.